I woke up from a 9-hour spine surgery, unable to move my legs with a lot of missed calls on my phone. I was wondering where those calls came from. 95 of them. One voicemail explained everything. While I was unconscious, my parents sold my condo and signed my name for me. It was just $500,000, my mom said confidently. They used it to fund my sister's wedding. They didn't ask. They didn't wait for me to be discharged from the hospital. They just did what they thought was right for them. So I kept my revenge plans to myself and executed it in silence. Her wedding was in 2 weeks, and I could barely stand. So I made one phone call, and what happened next at her wedding was something none of them expected. My phone was sitting on the rolling tray beside my hospital bed, vibrating non-stop, lighting up, going dark, lighting up again. I remember thinking it looked like something alive. Like it was panicking. My throat burned when I swallowed. My mouth tasted like metal and cotton. I tried to lift my hand, but it barely responded, like my arm was wading through thick water. A nurse noticed my eyes were open and smiled. "You're back with us," she said softly. Surgery went well. I wanted to ask how long I'd been out, but my voice wouldn't come. She adjusted my pillow, checked my then slid the phone closer. "Your family's been trying to reach you," she added. I squinted at the screen. 95 missed calls. The numbers blurred, then sharpened again. My brain felt slow, like it was rebooting. 95 calls didn't mean love in my family. It meant urgency. It meant something had gone wrong. I unlocked the phone with shaking fingers. Text messages stacked on top of each other. "Call us immediately. This is important. Please answer. Frida, don't panic." That one made my stomach drop. The voicemail icon showed 17 unheard messages. The first was from my father, time-stamped 4 hours into my surgery. I hesitated. There's a moment like that sometimes, before information enters your life, where your body already knows it's about to be wounded. I felt it then. A tightening in my chest. A strange calm, like the quiet before glass shatters. I pressed play. My father's voice filled the room, cheerful in that way he gets when he thinks he's being reasonable. "Hey, Freddie. You're probably still out, but I wanted to leave this so you don't get confused later. Your mother and I made a decision while you were in surgery. We sold your condo." The room tilted. I stared at the ceiling again, certain I'd misheard him. "We found a cash buyer. Very clean process. You weren't conscious, obviously, so we signed on your behalf. Everything's legal. The money's going toward your sister's wedding. About 500,000. You'll understand, it was time sensitive. Call us when you wake up." He ended it with a soft laugh. "Love you." The voicemail cut off. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. The nurse was still in the room, humming quietly while she wrote something on a chart. The heart monitor kept its steady rhythm, oblivious. $500,000. My condo. Sold. While I was unconscious. I replayed the message. Then again. Then a third time. Each word landed heavier than the last. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I felt something colder move through me, settling into place with frightening clarity. My sister's wedding was in 2 weeks. And I couldn't even sit up on my own. Let me rewind, because this didn't start in a hospital bed. It started 7 weeks earlier, in a beige office that smelled faintly of disinfectant and old carpet. My neurosurgeon sat across from me with my MRI scans pulled up on a monitor. He pointed to the glowing images with a pen. "Compression here. And here. L3 through L5. We've delayed as long as we safely can." I nodded. I'd been living with pain for nearly 4 years. Pain that crawled down my legs. Pain that made sleep impossible. Pain that turned simple things, showering, standing, sitting, into calculations. "So," he said, folding his hands, "we're scheduling surgery. 9 hours. 6 weeks minimum recovery." I felt something loosen in my chest. Relief. Hope. Fear too, but mostly hope. That night, I called my parents. My mother answered on the third ring. There was laughter in the background. My sister's laugh. High, bright, effortless. Mom, I said. I got the surgery date. Oh, she replied. That's nice, sweetheart. Nice. It's March 8th, I continued. I'll need help the first couple of weeks. Just rides, maybe groceries. March, she interrupted. Frida, that's right before your sister's wedding. I know, I said. But this can't wait. There was a pause. Then muffled voices. Then my sister, Lily, laughing again. You'll manage, my mother said. You always do. We're in the middle of final fittings. Call later, okay? She hung up. I stared at my phone, familiar disappointment settling in. I wasn't surprised. That was the part that hurt the most. Growing up, Lily was the sun. Everything revolved around her. Her moods, her needs, her dreams. I was the background planet, stable and unnoticed. When Lily wanted to pursue dance, my parents drained their savings for lessons. When I got a full academic scholarship, my father nodded once and asked if I could tutor Lily in math. When Lily dropped out of community college, it was because the environment wasn't supportive. When I worked 2 jobs through engineering school, it was because you're strong like that, Frida. Strength, in my family, meant self-erasure. By the time I bought my condo at 28, I'd stopped telling them my plans. It was a modest place, 1 bedroom, concrete floors, a narrow balcony overlooking a parking lot, but it was mine. Every mortgage payment was a small act of defiance. They hated it. Not openly, but subtly. My father once asked why I'd locked up so much money in something unnecessary. My mother suggested I sell it to help Lily get established. I never imagined they'd take it from me outright. The week before surgery, I prepared like someone who knew no one was coming to save her. I hired a caregiver for daytime hours. I prepped meals. I moved my bed into the living room so I wouldn't have to climb stairs. I labeled medication bottles with large print. 3 days before surgery, my mother called, not to ask how I was feeling. Your father and I are short for the wedding, she said. Just temporarily. Could you contribute a little more? I can't, I replied. I'm about to have major surgery. There was silence. Then her voice cooled. Fine. Don't help. We'll figure something out. They did. Back in the hospital, the nurse noticed my breathing had changed. Are you in pain? She asked. No, I said hoarsely. Just give me a minute. She nodded and stepped out. That was when I made the call. Not to my parents. To Marcus Hale, the attorney whose number I'd kept saved for years and hoped I'd never need again. He answered on the first ring. Frida. They sold my condo, I said. While I was in surgery. There was a pause. Then, did you authorize it? No. Another pause. Longer this time. Okay, he said calmly. We'll handle this. First, are you safe? I'm in a hospital bed. Good. Then listen carefully. As he spoke, something steadied inside me. The pain, the betrayal, the fog, they were still there. But now there was structure. A plan. When he finished, I stared at my phone again. 1 call down. Many consequences to come. And none of them would be accidental. The first 3 days after surgery passed in fragments. Pain arrived in waves, sharp, electric, then dull and heavy. Nurses came and went. Machines beeped. Time lost its edges. But beneath all of it, something inside me stayed awake. Anger burns hot. Fear shakes. Grief collapses. What I felt instead was focus. Marcus came to see me on the 4th day. He stood at the foot of my hospital bed in a grey suit that looked out of place among the plastic chairs and 4 poles. He'd always had that effect, like he belonged in rooms where decisions were final. I pulled the preliminary records, he said, opening a slim folder. It's exactly what you thought. They forged my signature. Yes. And they used an emergency power of attorney template that doesn't hold up under scrutiny. He looked at me carefully. Your parents committed multiple felonies. I nodded once. And the buyer? Innocent. Cash purchase through an LLC. Fast close. Reversing the sale would take years, and there's no guarantee. So the money's gone. Yes. I absorbed that quietly. I'd already grieved the condo in my head, the mornings on the balcony, the creak in the hallway floor, the proof of a life built without permission. What are my options? I asked. Marcus hesitated, then said, There's more. He slid another document onto the tray table. The house your parents live in. The one on Cedar Ridge. My chest tightened. What about it? You still own it. Through the holding company we set up 3 years ago. 3 years ago. I closed my eyes briefly. Back then, I'd gotten a call from an old colleague at a regional bank. Quiet voice. Careful words. Your parents are 60 days from foreclosure. I'd driven straight to Marcus's office that night. I hadn't done it for revenge. I hadn't even done it for gratitude. I'd done it because some stubborn part of me still believed love meant protection, even when it wasn't returned. They never knew, I said now. No, Marcus replied. They still don't. And the lease expires 1 week after your sister's wedding. That was when I laughed. Not loudly. Just a breath that slipped out of me, surprised. Draft the notice, I said. But don't serve it yet. Marcus studied me. You're sure? Yes. Because timing matters. I was discharged 8 days later. Walking was slow. Careful. Every step felt negotiated. But my mind was sharp, and that mattered more. My phone exploded the moment I turned it back on fully. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails. From my parents. From Lily. From relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I listened. My father's messages were defensive. My mother's were emotional. Lily's were annoyed. Why are you making this difficult? She said in one voicemail. This is my wedding, Frida. Stop being dramatic. Dramatic. I saved everything. Screenshots. Audio files. Timestamps. People think silence means weakness. They don't realize it's often collection. 2 weeks before the wedding, Lily posted a photo on Instagram. A mirror selfie in a bridal boutique. White silk. Perfect lighting. A single tear placed just right. The caption read, When jealousy comes from your own blood. The comments flooded in. Cut her off. Some people can't stand seeing others happy. Family isn't always family. My phone rang all night. Aunties. Cousins. Family friends. Not one asked what had happened. They already knew, because Lily had told them. I let it burn. Because when you let people commit fully to the wrong story, the truth hits harder. My parents finally showed up at my apartment 10 days before the wedding. I heard them before I saw them. Voices in the hallway, my mother's sharp and anxious, my father's low and irritated. I opened the door slowly, leaning on my cane. My mother gasped when she saw me. Oh my God, Frida, you look awful. Nice to see you too. My father pushed past her, eyes scanning the apartment like he was searching for something he could still claim. We need to talk, he said. About you threatening us, my mother snapped. I smiled faintly. I haven't threatened anyone. You told your father what he did was a crime, she said. Do you know how upsetting that was? Yes. She blinked. Well, what? Apologize. I stared at her. My father sighed heavily, like he was dealing with a difficult employee. You're overreacting. We made a decision for the family. You sold my property. You weren't using it. I took a breath. Slowly. Carefully. Get out, I said. My mother recoiled. Excuse me. You heard me. My father's face darkened. That condo money paid for your sister's wedding. It's done. You need to let it go. I will, I said. Soon. They left furious. They thought the danger had passed. The rehearsal dinner was held in a private room at a vineyard outside the city. I arrived late. On purpose. The room fell quiet when I walked in. Lily sat at the center table, glowing, draped over her fiancé, Aaron. My parents flanked them like royalty. My mother's smile cracked when she saw me. Lily leaned toward Aaron and whispered something. He looked at me with polite confusion. I took my seat near the back. My father stood to toast. Family, he said, raising his glass. Sacrifice. Love. Support. His eyes flicked to me. This wedding was made possible because family shows up for each other. I met his gaze and lifted my glass. Aaron noticed. Later, Lily approached me, heels clicking like a warning. You better not ruin this, she said under her breath. I wouldn't dream of it. Her eyes narrowed. Good. Because she thought I was bluffing. The night before the wedding, Marcus texted me. Documents confirmed. Attorney ready. Media exposure risk moderate. I replied with one word. Tomorrow. I slept deeply for the first time since surgery. The wedding venue looked like something out of a magazine. White stone. Hanging lights. Imported flowers. A string quartet warming up. 200 guests. 200 witnesses. I arrived with my aunt, my father's older sister, the only person in the family who'd ever called him out. She squeezed my hand. You don't have to do this. I know. But you're going to. Yes. The ceremony passed in a blur. Lily was radiant. Confident. Certain she'd won. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, I stayed seated. Not yet. That moment belonged to the reception. Dinner was served. Toasts began. My father stood again. I'd like to thank everyone who contributed to making this day possible, he said proudly. Especially our family. Then he smiled at me. Frida, he said, voice honeyed. Why don't you come say a few words? The room turned. I stood slowly. Every step toward the microphone felt like gravity shifting. This was the moment they'd unknowingly prepared for me. I took the mic. Thank you, I said calmly. I'd love to. And for the first time that day, Lily's smile wavered. The microphone felt heavier than it should have. Not physically, emotionally. Like it carried the weight of every assumption in the room. Every version of me people thought they knew. The quiet daughter. The successful one who didn't need help. The sister who was supposed to be grateful for scraps and silence. 200 faces stared back at me. My parents smiled politely. Lily's smile was tight, rehearsed. Aaron looked curious. Slightly uneasy. I took a breath. I want to start by congratulating my sister, I said. She looks beautiful today. Applause rippled through the room. Lily relaxed a fraction. And I want to thank my parents, I continued, for teaching us the importance of family. My mother nodded enthusiastically. For showing us, I went on, that family means making sacrifices. My father lifted his glass again. I paused. Sometimes, I said carefully, those sacrifices are volunteered. A few people laughed. And sometimes, I added, they're taken. The laughter thinned. I looked directly at Lily. 2 weeks ago, I said, I woke up from a 9-hour spinal surgery. I couldn't walk. I couldn't sit up on my own. I couldn't even feel my legs properly. The room stilled. I had 95 missed calls on my phone. My father's smile faded. One voicemail stood out. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I was unconscious when my parents sold my condo, I said evenly. So they signed for me. A sharp intake of breath came from somewhere near the front. They sold it for $500,000. Murmurs spread like heat. And that money, I said, turning slowly so the room couldn't look away, paid for this wedding. Silence. Not awkward silence. Shuck. My mother stood halfway out of her chair. Frida. I raised a hand. I have the voicemail, I said calmly. Time-stamped. Saved. Backed up. Erin turned to Lily. What is she talking about? Lily's face had gone pale. She's exaggerating. I'm not, I said gently. I'm being precise. I tapped my phone once. My father's voice filled the room. You were unconscious, so we signed for you. Just 500,000. Gasps. Someone dropped a fork. That, I said, is felony fraud. Erin pushed his chair back. You told me your parents helped. They did, I replied, meeting his eyes. They helped themselves. My father stormed toward me. Turn that off. I didn't. And there's more, I said. Marcus stood from a table near the back. A ripple of recognition passed through the room. Lawyer posture is unmistakable. I represent Frida, he said clearly. And I'll be serving legal notices tonight. My mother collapsed into her chair. The house on Cedar Ridge, I continued. The one my parents live in? I own it. Confusion broke loose. I purchased it 3 years ago through a holding company when they were about to lose it. My aunt inhaled sharply. You what? I didn't tell anyone, I said. Because I didn't want credit. I wanted peace. I looked at my parents. The lease expires next week. The room erupted. This is insane, Lily shouted. You're doing this on my wedding day? No, I said quietly. You did this on my surgery day. Erin stood up fully now. You knew about this? Lily's eyes darted. It was complicated. It was theft, Marcus said. The officiant slipped out of the room. Guests whispered openly now. Phones were out. Someone was crying. Not Lily. A cousin. My father pointed at me, shaking. After everything we did for you. You raised me, I said. That doesn't give you ownership. My mother sobbed. We needed the money. You wanted the spectacle, I replied. There's a difference. Erin removed his jacket slowly. I need air. He walked out. Lily screamed after him. The string quartet stopped playing. I placed the microphone down carefully. I didn't come here to ruin a wedding, I said. I came to return the truth. I turned and walked out. Behind me, the room fractured. By the time I reached the parking lot, my legs were shaking, not from pain, but release. My aunt caught up to me. You okay? I nodded. I am now. Sirens weren't far behind. Someone had called the police. The fallout was immediate. By morning, the story was everywhere. Local bride's family accused of fraud. Wedding funded by stolen property, says sister. My parents' church asked them to step down from leadership roles. My mother stopped answering calls. My father tried to bargain. I'll pay you back, he said over voicemail. We'll fix this. Too late. Charges were filed. A civil suit followed. The buyer of the condo was compensated through insurance and restitution. I never got the condo back. But I got something better. Acknowledgement. Lily didn't go on her honeymoon. Erin postponed the marriage indefinitely. When she finally called me, her voice was raw. You humiliated me. No, I said. I stopped protecting you. You could have handled this privately. You made it public when you spent my money on a ballroom. Silence. Then, quietly, "I didn't think you'd fight back." "I know," I said. The eviction notice was served a week later. My parents moved into a small apartment across town. They told everyone I abandoned them. This time, people asked questions. 6 months later, I walked without a cane. A year later, I hiked again. 2 years later, I bought a new place. Smaller, sunnier, entirely mine. I framed the voicemail transcript. Not out of bitterness. Out of memory. People ask me if I regret doing it at the wedding. I tell them this. If someone steals from you while you're unconscious, lies about it while you're healing, and celebrates with your money, they've already chosen the stage. I just spoke the truth into it. And for the first time in my life, I didn't whisper. Moral lessons. This story teaches that family is not a free pass to take what isn't theirs, and blood ties do not erase betrayal. Generosity and patience do not obligate anyone to tolerate exploitation, and kindness should never be mistaken for weakness. Trust can be weaponized by those closest to you, and sometimes the people who are supposed to protect and support you are the very ones who will undermine your life. True strength comes from recognizing this truth, setting boundaries, and refusing to be a silent victim any longer. Holding people accountable for their actions isn't cruelty, it is justice. And sometimes, survival and self-respect demand choices that are uncomfortable, even for the people you once loved. Protecting yourself does not make you selfish. Allowing toxic behavior to continue makes it worse. The story is a harsh reminder. Some lessons are only learned the hard way, and the cost of being passive in the face of betrayal can be far greater than anyone expects.